Hi, good day everyone. I am Christian J. Lopez from BSN English 3B and now. Novel by Kate Chopin or Chopin, published in 1899, originally titled A Solitary Soul. The novel depicts a young mother's struggle to achieve sexual and personal emancipation in the oppressed environment of the polybium American South. When it was first published, it was widely condemned for its portrayal of sexuality and marital infidelity. Today, it is considered as a landmark work of early feminist fiction. The summary of The Awakening. So, The Awakening opens on an island in the Grand Isle, Louisiana, where 28-year-old Anna Pontelier is vacationing with her Creole husband, Leonce, and their two children, Intine and Raoul. Leonce works during the week, leaving Anna to look for after the children. Anna, however, spends more of her time with Madame Adele Ratignolle and fellow vacationer on the island. Charming, elegant, and observant, Madame Ratignolle is the ideal mother woman. Her identity almost entirely subsumed by her familial role. She exists as if only to meet the needs of the ones of her family. Ironically, it is Madame Ratignolle who catalyzed Edna's awakening. Unlike Edna, Madame Ratignolle grew up around Creole women who taught her to discuss and express her emotion freely. Her openness and boldness to Edna ultimately inspiring her to let go of her reservations. The process of awakening is accelerated by Robert LeBron, as attractive, charismatic young man who Edna's best befriends in the island. At first, the relationship is innocent. They laugh together, exchanging jokes and stories. Often in the company of Madame Ratignolle, the more time Edna spends with Robert, the more she resents the idea of mother woman. Through Robert, she begins to develop a sense of self-apart for her social and domestic roles. As she recovers the independence, desires from her youth return. She restarts painting again or recalls her past loves and infatuation. During this time, Edna is powerfully affected by music. When Mademoiselle, another vacationer in the island, plays piano for her, she is moved to tears the night after weeks of unsuccessful attempts. Edna learns to swim. By summer end, Edna and her husband have grown apart. Edna and Robert, on the other hand, have developed a romantic attachment to avoid consummating their relationships. Robert decides to remove herself from the island and go to Mexico. He promises to write to Edna, but she is nonetheless devastated by his departure. Not long after, the Ponteliers return to their home in New Orleans, where Edna, relinquishing her duties as a housewife, continues to develop her painting skills. She maintains her friendship with Madame Ratignolle and Mademoiselle, visiting the latter especially often. Mademoiselle sometimes receives letters from Robert, which she allows Edna to read. Mademoiselle suggests that Robert is in love with Edna. She observes that many of his letters are about her, when Mademoiselle encourages Edna to admit, perhaps even act upon her feelings for Robert. Edna's worried husband seeks the help of Dr. Mandelet, a long-time family friend. Dr. Mandelet suspects Edna's transformation is the result of an affair, but he doesn't voice his concern to Leonce. Instead, he tells him to let Edna's behavior return to the course. So, business trip, his mother collects Intine and Raoul, leaving Edna and home alone. Edna finds peace in the absence of her husband and children. Shortly after they leave, she decides to move out of their family home into a nearby central rental house, which Italy calls his pigeon house. Seeking financial independence, she begins selling her paintings. She also initially after with the town organizer and Robin. Although she sexually attracted him, Edna has no romantic feelings for Robin. She seems to use his as stand-in Robert, who, as far as she knows, is still in Mexico. For Mademoiselle to return home, Edna encounters Robert. The meeting is awkward, and Edna wonders aloud if Robert did not seek her out upon his return. The tension between them is sustained until Robert visits Pigeon House. As Edna's observed, although softness came back, the tension is renewed after Robert takes his leave this next time. Robert visits Pigeon House. Edna and last kisses Henry responds in kind. Although he admits he loves her, Robert insists he cannot be with Edna because he is a married woman and such belongs to Leonce. Edna protests, arguing issue is not her husband's property because what is gone in this place is not the risk. I love you goodbye because I love you. Edna does not sleep that night. Edna, she is always awake thinking about her children and his relationship. She realized there is no one thing in the world she desired. There was no woman being whom again. There was no one thing in the world she desired. There was no human being whom she wanted near but Robert. And she even realized that the day would come when he too and though if he would not of her existence leaving her alone. Shortly thereafter Edna returns to a grand Isle after greeting Robert's brother. She goes to the beach where she trips and wades naked into the water, determined not to let anyone, including her children, possesses her. Edna swims away from shore after a while and limbs tired. Exhaustion overtakes her and she drowns among the waves of finding totally free. One of the central themes in the novel is that self-ownership, also called bodily autonomy, self-ownership was a key tenet of 19th century feminism. It is signified a woman's right to have control over her own body and identity. So-called first-wave feminists argue that women could gain their freedom only by refusing to allow other people, namely men, to exercise control over their bodies. They focused in particular on a wife's right to refuse sexual relations with her husband. Their argument was that a woman's service as a wife and mother entitled her to ownership over her body and therefore the right to refuse to have a sex or impregnated. The heroine of the awakening, along with the kind of bodily anatomy, she relentless in the pursuit of authority over her own person. Edna resists objectification by her husband, who looks at her as one looks a vulnerable piece of personal property. She challenges Robert when he suggests that she is not free and must be set free by her husband in order for them to be together. Her response of Robert clearly borrows from the heroic of the first wave feminism. So the evidence. You have been a very, very foolish boy, wasting your time to dreaming impossible things when you speak Mr. Pointer, setting with me free. I am no longer one of the Mr. Pontaler possession of the spirit of the honor give my of or not I give myself where I choose. If he were to say her Robert take her be happy, she yours should be loved you both. At the end, she keeps the vow she made up into the pigeon house, and she will never again be alone another himself. Edna's story is laden with symbolism. The sea is perhaps the most important symbol in the novel. It variously represents baptism, cleanism, and rebirth. In The Awakening, Chopin constructs the sea as a space of freedom, a space outside away from the partial society. For Edna, the sea serves as a source of empowerment, a place of refuge in the beginning enters with her seductive odor. A sonorous murmur, intense and loving but imperative. So another second evidence is the voice of the sea is seductive. Nor seeing with whispering, clamoring, murmuring invented the soul of wonder, or spells is in the abscess of solitude. To lose itself amazes. So Chopin imbues the sea with maternal qualities, ultimately likening to womb, enfolding the body into soft, close embrace. Although Edna longs for such comfort, she is honestly in the water, unless accompanied she feels a certain ungovernable dread. Edna's first soul swim thus mark us of her body and she effectively realized her independence. So the third evidence is still feeling exhalation over her, as if some power of significant importance had been given her to control the working of her body and her soul. She grew daring, reckless, overestimating her strength. She wanted to swim for out where no women have swum before. In the water, Edna is reminded of the vastness of the universe and her position within it. As she contemplates her significance of lack thereof, her thoughts turn to death. Weeks later, when Edna reflects on their expenses, she recalls the freedom of the fall in the Gulf, where Robert Gunn and her slave made herself return to the room to see and last scene of the novel. Thank you.